The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jack Campbell's contract was bought out today by the Edmonton Oilers. First, we're going to talk about the details of the buyout and the amount of cap savings that the Edmonton Oilers will have. Then I'm going to tell you why I think this was a must buyout contract, why the Oilers had to do this. And then let's just talk a little about Jack Campbell himself and the career he's had so far in the NHL. So first, the details of the buyout. Back in 2022, Ken Holland signed Jack Campbell to a 5-year deal with $5 million AAV. So $5 million per year for 5 years. Jack Campbell lasted until this offseason. So 2 full years into that deal. There are 3 years left on it. That means it will be a 6-year buyout. The cap savings are $3.9 million in cap space they will save next season. And then the cap hit in the next couple of years will be 2.3 on the books for the Oilers, then 2.6, then 1.5, then 1.5, then 1.5. So that's the money that's being spread out over the course of the next 6 years for this buyout. And Jack Campbell, it was a completely necessary move for the Edmonton Oilers to do this. And it's simple. It comes down to the 2 players they have on their team, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, where you have a team that just went to the Stanley Cup final. They were a couple goals away from winning the Stanley Cup, 1 game away from winning the Stanley Cup. And when you have that, you need to maximize the salary cap because this is a salary cap league. This is the NHL where you have a finite amount of dollars to spend. And we have a goaltender that you cannot no longer play in the NHL on your roster that is making $5 million. You must make the hard decision to get rid of that contract and take the $3.9 million in savings that you'll get next year and the couple million that you'll get in the next few years and remove that 5 and take that cap space. There was no way to trade Jack Campbell based on what he has done so far, based on what he did last year and the year before. There's no way to trade him. There's no way to waive him. And somebody would pick him up. This was the only option to buy out the deal. And when you are in a competitive window like this, you must make hard decisions where you need to maximize the cap space you have. So that's I feel like it's fairly simple. I feel like everybody should understand that. There's no reclamation project here with Jack Campbell. He's had that opportunity. Let's just talk about his career now. We don't need to relitigate Jack Campbell's entire time as a goaltender in Toronto, but during his time there, he proved that he can be a goalie that can be trusted in the National Hockey League. In 22 games in the 2021 season, Campbell posted a .921 and earned himself the starting job in the playoffs. And then in the following season, in 21-22, in 49 games, Campbell was a .914 and then also started in the playoffs, both series that the Leafs ended up losing, but that's besides the point. Jack Campbell earned his deal in Edmonton, but once he got there, Cinderella's glass slipper kind of fell off. And Campbell's always been a player who wears his heart on his sleeve. He's always been open about criticism of himself when he's not playing well, and it's always been difficult for him in the media to talk through those emotions. So you always felt on a personal level when Jack Campbell struggled that he felt it the most out of anybody. You know, as a fan, you often watch your athletes and you're like, I want them to care. Jack Campbell, Soupy, was always a player that you knew cared. So always, I think he cared more than us, more than you and me if you were rooting for him there. But once he got to Edmonton, the stuff wasn't there. He struggled mightily in the 4 games he started for the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs during the regular season too. I can read those stats off to you as well. He was in .888 and 36 starts in his first year. And then this past season, that's where it all kind of blew up. It did blow up for Jack Campbell. Only 5 starts, only 5 games played throughout the season in .873. And the Edmonton Oilers were hoping that sending him down to Bakersfield, he could get his game back there. And it never materialized. He had some good starts down there. Obviously, it turned around in the end at the AHL level, but there was never a point when you could trust him against NHL competition. And now Jack Campbell will land on his feet somewhere. Trust me on that. Somebody's going to give Jack Campbell another contract, but he might not start at the NHL level. He could be a decent backup somewhere eventually. Maybe he works his way back up from the AHL. Somebody's going to give this guy a shot. now that he's not making $5 million anymore. It's going to be very low. It's going to be near league min just so he can prove himself and work his way back up. Who knows if he does that, though? I assume I'd put money on him getting a shot at proving himself, but whether he lives up to the task is a whole other question. And it's hard to see him go and struggle like this and this be the ending of what was such a hopeful second part of his career after bouncing around in a couple different places, finally finding his footing in Toronto, getting this big deal, and for this, how the big deal ends 2 years in being bought out. Oh, like I'm here talking about this because I feel for the man and I feel for how this journey has gone, but it's a necessary evil in a harsh reality of pro sports. And I think that is the conclusion I'm drawing here. I'm feeling for the guy in the way this journey took place, but everything makes sense for the Edmonton Oilers to do this from a strictly business cap situation. And here's hoping Jack Campbell fights his way back to some sort of just average play, because we haven't seen that in a few years out of Jack Campbell. So I'm rooting for him. Whether he succeeds as a backup or eventually as a starter again, who knows, but we will see. All right, that is it for me tonight. Thank you for being here. It could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be listening or watching this right now, and I appreciate you for that. Good night from Toronto.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.